if if there's peace in Ukraine, this is not a prediction, but if there is, that would mean oil will go down, grains will go down, and everybody will say, we've saved the day. So watch for something to happen to surprise all of us, and I don't know what it is.
What is your perspective on where we go from here?
Well, you've more or less answered the question. There's a lot of pessimism around, huge amount of pessimism, and often when there's so much pessimism, something happens to break the mood. Maybe peace in Ukraine. I'm not forecasting that. I'm just saying something like that. If it comes along, we'll have a huge rally. So I would expect something, I don't know what, to happen not too far away, very in the future, to cause a big rally. There's just so much pessimism, and nearly always when there's too much pessimism, the market rallies.
Do you see this rally taking out the highs that we saw at the beginning of the year? Because some people are looking, for example, for that there's going to be this final melt-up phase and that we have not reached a top for the stock market, but other people think we're only headed down from here.
Well, I'm not smart enough to know. Market timing is not my forte, either for better or for worse. But as I said, if something good happens, I don't know what. I mean, the Federal Reserve says, we've gone too far, or who knows what, peace in Ukraine, something, then we'll have a huge rally. But this much pessimism nearly always leads to, or often leads to a big rally. So my expectation is there is going to be another rally. My plan is to short that rally, sell that rally and short that rally, and I'm waiting. But Elijah, don't rely on me for market timing. We'll all go broke if you rely on me.
Well, I think it's very interesting also. I mean, market timing is very difficult, but it's important to recognize the trends, which you often are very good at. And that kind of brings us to this next topic of the Fed and inflation. We're seeing this trend of inflation right now, and people are wanting to know, how do we invest in this environment? So first, if we could get your general take on why we're seeing such inflation right now and where you see that headed in the future, and how do we invest accordingly with inflation in sight?
Whenever there's inflation, prices go higher, and if you own the things that go higher in price, you will do okay, and you might even make a lot of money. I mean, there were people that made a lot of money in the 1970s when there was terrible inflation, and the Fed once again was out of control. So if you own the right things, you'll make a lot of money during this period. And usually during inflation, the prices of real assets go higher, whether it's silver or wheat or whatever, something that's real, mainly commodities. And commodities are certainly the most depressed asset class right now around the world. You will probably do okay.
And when it comes to that, your perspective then on the bond market, because that also has to do with inflation. We have a viewer here asking, the bond market is predicting inflation will come down sharply by the next year. Does the bond market have it right? Or if not, will this send bond market prices lower? What's the relationship with the DXY, the dollar index, and the gold relationship in this environment as well? So kind of a lot of questions there, but your take on bonds, the US dollar, and gold.
So the bonds, the dollar, and precious metals, we only have one day, don't we? That's a whole lot to discuss. Well, I own silver and gold. I'm not buying at the moment. I plan to buy more of both as we go along, especially silver, since it's cheaper these days because of inflation, and there will be worse inflation. The reason we have inflation is because the central bank in the U.S., but not just the U.S., but especially the U.S., printed huge amounts of money. You have to understand, Elijah, these guys are bureaucrats. They're academics. They don't know what they're doing. All they want to do is keep their job. They don't particularly care about you or your job. They don't know what they're doing. As you know, a few months ago, they said, there is no inflation. Then they said, it's transitory, don't worry. And now they say, we've got it under control. I mean, please, go back and read the history of the central bank in the U.S. and the world, not just the U.S. We've only had one or two good central bankers in American history. We certainly don't have one now. We certainly haven't had one in a while. So they don't know what they're doing, and that's why we have inflation. Yes, they say they're now cutting back, and I hope they do, but my view is that something might happen, and then they will let up. They will really, if there's peace in Ukraine, for instance, oil prices and grain prices will continue to go down, and the central bank will say, "See, we solved the problem. We saved the day," and we'll have a big rally in stocks and bonds, but that will be the last rally. And yes, your viewer points out that bonds are doing better. Well, first of all, nothing goes straight up or straight down, and bonds are having a big rally after having had a big correction. So I don't let the bond market tell me too much about what to do with my investments, but I certainly watch the bond market, and certainly the bond market is smarter than most of us.
It sounds like you're looking for a rally in the stock market, and optimism to come back to the market. But it seems like the Fed is trapped right now. A lot of investors are talking about that. So, do you see that the Fed is going to be able to, have a soft landing here, and that's what's going to cause the market to rally, or what exactly is going to cause the market to rally in this case?
Oh, I've heard about soft landings for most of my investment career. I don't remember one ever happening, except, in the news, in the newspapers or on the TV. I doubt if they'll pull off a soft landing, though. It's been since 2009 that we have not had an economic problem in the U.S. That's the longest in recorded history. Maybe it's going to go on forever, but we're certainly overdue on a historic basis. And maybe these guys are geniuses, and maybe they will pull it off. I doubt it. I would suspect we will have a hard landing sometime in the next year or so, and it will cause all of us to suffer, and to suffer badly. And then they will print more money to try to save themselves, which means that real assets will be the place to be again. In the 70s, real assets were the place to be, and you could make a lot of money owning the right things in those times of horrible inflation. But back to what I said before, if there's peace in Ukraine, this is not a prediction, but if there is, that would mean oil will go down, grains will go down, and everybody will say, we've saved the day. So watch for something to happen to surprise all of us, and I don't know what it is.